y'all, thank you for clicking on another one of my videos. This week I'm collabing with my friend Stephanie from Home Sweet Stephanie. She was the very first person that I ever did a collab with, so I'm super happy to be doing it again. She has really awesome content on her channel with a similar style as me, so I know that you guys are just going to love her if you have not heard of her before. So be sure to head on over to her channel so that you can get double the dinner inspiration this week. There will be a link to her channel and her video down below in my description box. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on into my week of dinners. For Meatless Monday, we gave these Morningstar Farm buffalo chicken patties a try. So, of course, they're not actual chicken. These are a vegan patty. I have been eyeing these for a while now. I'm not going to lie, I was pretty skeptical and weirded out by trying them, but I figured why not. So here is the nutrition facts if any of you guys are interested. And I just followed the cooking directions on the back of the package. So I'm just going to bake these in the oven. I preheated my oven to 375 degrees and bake these for 18 minutes, flipping halfway through. You could, of course, cook these in your air fryer if you have one as well to get them a little more crispy, but I was using mine for something else. So I like to always at least try to offer some type of veggie or fruit with dinner time. Doesn't always happen, and I think that's okay in my opinion, but I think I do pretty good for the most part regardless of what some of y'all say. But on this particular night, I just cut up a cantaloupe. My 2-year-old son loves them, so I always try to keep them on hand in the refrigerator. Also, to go along with this meal, I'm making some of these broccoli and cheese veggie tots by Green Giant. I found these at Walmart. I love them. And then Josh and Riley asked for these Arby's curly fries, so I'm just going to toss those in my air fryer basket as well. And I'm going to set my temperature to 400 degrees, and I always set my timer to 15 minutes, but sometimes it takes about 20. So back to these buffalo patties. Here they are straight out of the oven. I'm just cutting these in half for you guys just so you can kind of see the texture and see what the insides look like. I served it on a hamburger bun with some mayo, tomato, lettuce, and pickles. And then there is, of course, those broccoli and cheese tots. If you have never tried these before, they are like a crispy breaded broccoli and cheese casserole bite. So good. I like to dip mine in ketchup. And those buffalo patties, they were not too spicy, so they could definitely be kid friendly, and I would have thought they were chicken if I didn't know better. They weren't like amazing, but I would probably buy them again. On Tuesday, I tried a new recipe called $1 Million Zucchini Skillet. So I started by roughly chopping 1 large carrot and 2 stalks of celery. I also have 3 cloves of garlic. I'm just dumping all of that into my food processor, and I'm going to pulse that for a few seconds until it looks something like this. Next, I'm going to pull out 1 pound of this mild ground Italian sausage, and I'm just going to brown that up. This was my first time ever buying this particular meat. Also, I'm going to be slicing up the zucchini. I used 2 large ones, and I just cut those in half lengthwise and then into bite-sized pieces. So I get a lot of questions on this little tool that I'm using here. I don't know what it's technically called. I just call it a meat masher, but I did get mine from Pampered Chef, but I have heard from some of you guys that you can also purchase them at Walmart. So now that my sausage is fully cooked, I'm going to go ahead and dump in those veggies. Finally chopping it like that makes it so easy to sneak veggies into your kids because they don't even realize that they're there, so that's a plus. Here I'm just going to season things up with some brown sugar, salt, parsley, oregano, and some basil. I'm going to stir that to make sure that everything gets seasoned properly. And then I'm going to dump in a 1/2 cup of this long grain white rice, followed by a can of these fire roasted diced tomatoes and some water. I'm also going to add in my zucchini at this time. You could also use a combination of yellow squash if you wanted to. This is a great recipe to use up those garden vegetables if you have a big abundance of them, like I know some people do. So here I'm just kind of patting those veggies and everything down into the liquid. You definitely want to make sure that your rice is covered. So I'm just going to let this come up to a boil. I'm going to cover it with a lid, turn the heat down just a little bit, and I'm going to let it simmer for about 30 minutes just until most of that liquid has absorbed and your rice is fully cooked. And then I'm just topping it with some Colby Jack cheese. I'm going to pop my lid on and just let that melt for a few minutes, and here is what it looks like when it is done. And it may not look like it, but this made a ton. I would definitely cut this recipe in half next time, but it was pretty darn good. But I will say I didn't really care for that Italian sausage. Probably wouldn't buy it again, but that's just personal preference. I think next time if I made it, I would do breakfast sausage or even some ground beef. On Wednesday, I made some Instant Pot sour cream pork chops. So I have my Instant Pot set to saute, and I'm just melting some butter. The recipe said to saute some onions in that butter before adding your pork, but y'all know I'm not going to be doing that. So I'm just seasoning these up with some garlic salt, black pepper, and some onion powder, and I'm just trying to sear each side. I'm not trying to fully cook it, and I'm going to tell y'all, this got so stuck to the bottom. It was really aggravating, but I finally got them flipped over. I'm sure that if you did follow the recipe, though, and you you saute those onions, the moisture from it would keep that from happening. I don't know, but I'm just seasoning the other side the exact same way. And then I'm adding in a cup of beef broth and then several dashes of this Worcestershire sauce. I'm just taking out my whisk and I am scraping up those flavorful bits on the bottom. Then I'm going to pop my top on, make sure it's set to sealing, and then I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes, and then it's going to get a 5-minute natural release. After that time was up, I took the pork chops out and removed those to a separate plate, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started on the gravy. So at this point, I stopped reading the instructions and just did my own thing, and that was a mistake because I messed this all up. But basically, you're supposed to turn your pot back on to saute, let it start simmering, and then add in like a cornstarch slurry. But I didn't do that. I skipped it and just added in the sour cream, and then I realized it was way too thin, so then I set it to saute and added in the cornstarch slurry. You definitely shouldn't do that. Just follow the instructions. I will have this recipe linked in my description box. It helped a little bit, but it was still way too runny. But here's my plate. I have one of those pork chops, and then I just served it with some steamed broccoli and also some of this mashed cauliflower. I found this in the freezer section. You just pop it in the microwave. I love it, but no one else in the house does, so I did make them some regular mashed potatoes. This recipe wasn't like, oh my gosh, amazing, but it was good. It had great flavor. We enjoyed it. If I got that gravy right, I think it would have been a lot better. On Thursday, we had breakfast for dinner. If you have been with me for a while now, y'all know that we like to do that quite often. It's just so easy, and we always love it. So I'm going to be cooking this whole package of bacon. My favorite way to cook bacon is definitely in the oven, especially if I'm cooking a large batch. This package was cut terribly, so it was awful trying to tear it apart, but I finally got it done. And I'm just going to pop that into a cold oven, and I'm going to set my temperature to 400 degrees, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm also going to be making some waffles to go along with that. I'm just going to be using this Bisquick mix that I always keep in my pantry, and I'm going to follow the directions on the back of the box. So to my mixing bowl, I'm just going to be adding in 2 cups of that Bisquick mix, as well as a cup and a third of some milk. I'm using 2%, but use whatever you want. I'm also going to be adding in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and then 1 egg. I like to crack it into a separate dish. That way I can see if any shells got into it. And then I'm just going to whisk that until most of the lumps are gone. So I'm going to preheat my waffle iron and then spray it with some nonstick cooking spray, and then I'm going to add in that batter. As you can see, it's on the runny side for some reason. I did eventually add in some extra Bisquick mix, and then I'm going to take some of these butterscotch chips and add those in as well. So you're about to see in a minute, this was an epic fail. So I had my waffle iron plugged in, but it was like halfway hanging out, and I didn't realize until it was too late. So this happened. You definitely don't want to pour it into a non-preheated waffle iron. It was such a mess to clean up, so I just moved it on over to the stove and made some pancakes. So I just have one of those pancakes. I picked one of the bigger ones, and I topped it with some strawberries and bananas, and then I have a few pieces of the bacon, of course, and I drizzled some syrup over the top. Doesn't get any easier than this. It was delicious. On Friday, I made a whole chicken in the air fryer for the first time. So if you have never bought a chicken like this before, you definitely want to make sure that you remove that little baggie that is stuffed inside of the chicken. I just tossed mine out, but I know some people use it for other things. But I just wanted to throw that in there if you're like new to cooking. So here I am just drizzling this chicken with some olive oil, and then I'm seasoning it with some onion and garlic powder, salt, black pepper, and some of this Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. And I'm just going to rub that down really well. And I don't know what it is, but handling whole chickens like this really grosses me out. Is any of you guys like that too? Like, I don't cook a lot with bone-in meat, so maybe that's what it is, but I got her done. So I just flipped it over, and I'm going to season it the exact same way, and then I am going to cover it in some paprika, mainly just for some extra color, and then I'm going to place it in my air fryer basket. You do want to put it breast side down. I forgot, so I'm flipping it over, but I'm just going to pop that in at 350 degrees for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to flip it on over so that I can get the other side crisps up. It is easiest to do this with some tongs, and I'm just going to let that go for a final 45 minutes. To go along with that, I also made a broccoli and cheese rice casserole. So first, I'm going to get started by cooking the rice. I'm going to take 1 cup of long grain white rice, add it to my sauce pot, and then you're going to need 2 cups of liquid. So I had some of this chicken broth left over in my fridge, so I went ahead and threw that on in there. I had about a cup. I wish I had the 2 full cups, but it's okay. I just used a cup of water as well. I let that come up to a boil, popped the top on, and I let it simmer until it was fully cooked. I also steamed one of these frozen bags of broccoli in the microwave, and if you are not familiar with these steamable bags, I don't use them all that much, so it's like I forget every time, but they leak a lot of water. So I recommend that you place that in a bowl as soon as it comes out of the microwave. But here I'm just taking my broccoli and chopping it up into finer pieces, and I'm also going to be taking some Velveeta cheese, technically the Great Value brand, and I'm going to dice that up as well. A large mixing bowl, I'm going to be adding in 1 can of cream of chicken soup, and then I'm going to dump in all of that broccoli and cheese. I placed the cheese over the broccoli so that I could kind of get a head start on melting it, and then I'm going to dump that hot rice over top of it, and that's really going to help it start melting. Of course, it will finish in the oven though. And then I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter that I've added over the top, and I'm just seasoning it with some onion and garlic powder and also some black pepper. Then I'm going to add in some milk. I didn't measure it, I just eyeballed it, and then I'm just going to stir all of that to combine. Now I'm just going to dump all of this into a sprayed baking dish. I believe it was 11 by 8. I did cut this recipe in half and it was still plenty. But I'm just going to take my spoon and kind of spread out the top to make sure that it's even. And that's going to go in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. So I completely forgot to film what the chicken looked like when it was done, so I just threw in this picture, and here is everything put together. Not the prettiest thing that I've ever plated up, but it was delicious. I love that rice so much. We all did, so I will definitely be making that over and over again, and that chicken was perfect. It was juicy on the inside. The skin was crispy and flavorful. We loved it. On Saturdays, we normally eat out, so we chose Texas Roadhouse, one of my favorite restaurants, and I got their house salad with a steak and a loaded baked potato. I don't eat steak all that often. I have to be in the mood for it, but this one was probably one of the best ones that I have ever had. So yummy. Sunday was nothing special or creative. I had some leftover chicken and bacon in the refrigerator, so I figured why not make a huge salad. So that's what we did. I have some lettuce, cheese, some boiled eggs with some pepper, the chicken and bacon, of course, and some croutons, and I drizzled that with some ranch, and it was awesome. So that is going to end this week. I hope that you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to check out Stephanie's. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have an awesome week, and I'll see you in my next one.